Well, team, welcome back. We're at tech inspection for the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb here in 2020, and I've run into my old friend Mike Dusold and his incredible Camaro thing being driven this weekend by Tommy Boileau.
Yep.
Tommy's the son of a longtime friend of mine, Bob, and he's a third-generation driver in the Colorado Springs area. So your Pikes Peak is like imprinted on your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching this race and coming up driving the road a bunch as a kid, especially right when I got my license. So I know the road really well. I've done a lot of sim work, and it's just, I mean, it's my favorite racetrack in the world. It's just so unique and so fun to drive, and it's such a challenge in itself.
It's a thrill, isn't it?
It's the biggest adrenaline rush you can imagine.
Me too.
It kind of ruins all of the racing in a way, doesn't it?
It does. I've never had more adrenaline than finishing that upper section.
Yeah. You get to the top
when you're
on
going
race
for
day,
it,
and you're like, oh my gosh, it's just, the emotion level is so high. It's just so high. It's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't done it, for sure.
True, but unless you love adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like people who do even crazier things.
Like those squirrel suits.
Squirrel
it's like
suits.
Probably the only thing that comes close, right?
Yeah, like the squirrel suits is a good example.
Those guys are just nuts.
Or
They say the
climbing
same thing
without
about
ropes.
us, though.
Huh?
Climbing without ropes. That guy did the movie Going Up El Capitan with no ropes.
My hands were sweating the whole time watching that thing, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I feel it.
The
You know.
heights thing and me aren't friendly, so.
So what are you doing at Pikes Peak?
I don't know, it just seemed like the thing to do. We, after we got banned from the Optima series, we had to do something fun, and we've been friends with Bob and Tommy for so long, and been around it. When we watched the race last year and got kind of inspired. We're like, I think the Camaro could do really good at this race. Let's try it out. And
I had the same thought. And that's
you
why I
were
called
like,
you.
You were like 2 weeks after we had already talked about it.
I actually called Mike. I was just sitting at home thinking about a car, and I thought, what the hell? I'll call Mike and see what he says.
We would have totally done it, but we already had to deal with Tommy, so you said those damn boys.
Somebody younger and better, they can beat me to it.
That's it.
So,
That's amazing, Mike, that you come up here. You got the right guy. First, tell me about being banned from Optima.
it's a strong word, but we like to say it that way just because for the effect.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
it sound better.
The drama.
Right? Yeah, it's dramatic.
That'll be our headline. Banned from Optima.
Yeah,
Click,
big,
click, click,
big
click.
letters.
Right?
So
Well, tell us first, remind us what Optima is.
So the Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car is what we originally wanted to do with the car. And I really love that series because it mixes the cosmetic side of builds with performance. And that's really been what our shop has been about since the beginning, is we wanted to have really cool looking cars that you could go beat the snot out of, and they were fast and fun. So it seemed like the
Not just
perfect
garage
place.
queens.
Yeah, I got so tired of cars that, you build them and people take them to 6 shows and then put them in a garage and you never see them again.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's
does it even run?
Yeah.
It sure is clean.
Well, and some of them run, they don't really run great.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have cars that looked cool, that ran really well, and that was the ultimate place to show that you had a car that looked cool that would work.
Mike, some of the worst driving cars I've ever driven were hot rods.
Oh, yeah.
Home builds. God love them. We all give it our best. But some of them are diabolical.
Oh, they're just hateful to drive.
Hateful. I bought my dad a 36 Ford hot rod. I can't tell you all the things that were wrong
Yeah, like
with
you
it.
can't even drive it down the highway without
Right.
feeling like it wants to kill you.
Exactly.
Much less go on a track.
That's exactly how it was.
Yeah. Like, does it even have brakes?
It kind of went down the road like this. Oh, we're just going straight. Like
Well, not
65.
really. You want to
No,
go
we weren't
straight.
going straight.
You just wanted to
We
go
weren't really going straight. Yeah, but the
You're
road
kind of doing
was
this weird S-shaped thing.
on an interstate.
Yeah.
And so, wait, your shop is
Dusold Designs.
Dusold Designs.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're in Louisville, Texas.
Where's that in Texas?
Just north of Dallas.
Okay, Dallas.
So Dallas area.
So you're running an Optima, and they have a lot of like American muscle cars.
Oh, yeah.
But they're super high performance. They actually handle, which is
Yeah.
kind of a new thing for American muscle cars.
It makes it a lot of fun. With the muscle cars, you can really look at them as a blank canvas now. There's so much available that you can do.
Yeah.
And we wanted to take what was available and what people had been doing and just push it further and go, okay, at one point, Danny Pop was killing everybody in that series in a C5 Corvette that's really well prepared. People started telling me like, yeah, nobody's ever going to beat the Corvettes again in a muscle car. I was like, really? Really? So that's
the
where this
gauntlet
came.
is thrown.
Yeah, we're like, screw that. We're going to build it, and we're going to go beat Corvettes and win that darn race when they say we can't. And that's where this car came from, is basically them saying we couldn't do it, and then I think we might be the winningest car ever in the series, which is cool.
Well,
and
you pushed the rules as far as they allowed.
Oh, absolutely.
Way beyond what anybody else had done.
Yeah,
right?
because it's just so much work. You know, the
Yeah.
rules allow for you to do this, or
Yes,
they used to.
Used to.
And basically people just didn't do it because, like, who's stupid enough to devote that much time and effort and money and blood, sweat, and tears to do that? It just doesn't make any sense. They'd have to be an idiot, and then an idiot came along, and it was me, and I did it.
And you did it right. And basically what you did was you made a racing frame and put a Camaro body on it.
Basically, yeah, that's what it is. The whole chassis in this car was built around engineering and design principles that race cars use, like polar moment of inertia, center of gravity, you know, like the big, most important things,
I'm
right?
getting all excited.
Yeah, so
that's good stuff. That's real race car stuff.
So we just basically said, if we want to take a 67 Camaro, which has terrible CG and polar moment, and make it have good of both of those, can we do it with the factory chassis? And eventually we're like, it's going to be a lot easier if we just throw all that crap away and we just start over and do our own thing. So that's what we did here. We got our butts handed to us for years. We had to figure it out. This was the first full chassis I built. Yeah, for 2 years we were competitive, but we weren't where we could have been.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody was fine with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Then. It was when we started to... Basically, where it really took off was I met a guy, Scott Best, who's a chassis engineer for pro race teams. And I just, friends of friends, we got together and started just having really long conversations about really nerdy chassis engineering stuff.
I would love to have heard that.
Oh, it's so much fun. And we still talk as often as we can, and we'll just talk for hours about different concepts of, you know, ways of making the car handle better and different geometries and different radical ideas. And Scott really got into the car because he said, you know, the racing that I do, the pro racing, is so regulated and so ruled now.
Yeah, it is.
That it's really become just being creative within those rules, where when he helps with this project, he really enjoys it because it's whatever we want to do. And he's like, and you
that's
actually...
how Pikes Peak is, too,
yeah,
right?
well, and that's why we've got such a great crew that's working with us on this, because we have all these friends in professional racing circles over the years that they like the car. And they thought it was fun, and we started talking, and for some reason, I hit it off with the race engineer guys. We get along really good, and we talk about nerdy stuff and have a blast. And then it becomes my ideas mixed with their ideas, and they've got all this experience in pro racing that I don't have. Well, when you mix that in with me being kind of creative and able to build whatever the hell I want to build, it's turned into a really cool mix, and it's kind of been a little bit of a whirlwind that led up into the whole Pikes Peak build. Is that I was telling Tommy about it the other day, like if you stand back and look at the crew of people that are involved in this car and this effort this year, it's really crazy. Like, it's really high level people that are putting in a bunch of time for just the love of seeing how fast we can go.
Yeah, because there aren't many rule sets anymore where you can do that.
Well, and it's great because the engineers are always like, you know, Scott and Tim, is there a rule on this? You're like, no. They're like, oh, but we got to do this and this and this. So they know where the hidden gems are. Yeah. And we just start building around all of that. And it's been so much fun. It's like the car's had a complete overhaul since you've seen it last.
Really?
It's completely replumbed. All the electronics and wiring are redone. All the suspension is different. We've added a ton of different aero components. Then we went to the hill and did testing. And one of the things we did with the data is we just added all kinds of data on. We have turbo inlet temperature and pressure, outlet temperature and pressure, after the intercooler temperature and pressure, turbo speed, shock pots, steering angles. So I mean, we wanted, because we know that like the biggest thing with the hill climb is don't have much time on the mountain. You
Yes.
don't know what you're really facing
Yes.
until you get to the test days, and then you get this much time to test it.
Yeah.
So our thought was, we need to be loaded down with data so that
Smart.
the guys can look at it and analyze it. And Tim and Scott, because they're in the pro racing, they're like on it when it comes to analyzing data.
Yeah.
And both of them have actually been, prepped cars for the mountain before, so they're very
Oh,
familiar
no
with
kidding.
it. Yeah, well,
Excellent.
Tim, our guy that's tuning our Motec, actually tuned the Motec of the car that won last year.
Oh.
So
Wow.
he might know how to do it.
Wow, because
but
that's so important at that altitude.
Oh man, and he's
it's
so
very hard
sharp
to
on
tune
it.
a car at 14,000 feet. You can't test anywhere.
Well, and this is the craziest thing, right? So Tim tuned it with what he thought the car needed, put it up top, and Tommy's like, the car's perfect. He's like, it
No
runs
issues.
awesome.
The thing ran perfectly. I mean, we had a couple issues on the bottom section, but up top it was spot on. I mean, Tim's the man. He just literally kind of took it, not necessarily shot in the dark because he's so well versed on the mountain and
Yeah.
he's the Motec wizard, but he had that thing just perfectly dialed from the get-go. So that took a lot of the pressure off of me trying to figure out what we need to do from a driving standpoint to manage the engine. It was just basically, all right, let's focus on talking to Scott now and getting the suspension to work perfectly up there. So it's like Mike said, I mean, the team that we have and that we've assembled is just absolutely incredible, world class, and we've got no excuses. We got to go up there and perform at this point.
You and your dad have run this event many times, right?
We've each run it once, so we
Oh,
haven't
once.
run it a whole lot.
Oh.
We've known a lot of people, we've been around the race a lot, but he ran it back in 2015, and I ran it for the first time last year and was Rookie of the Year up on the mountain. So it's second time.
What
to
were
be
you in,
driving
Tommy?
the
I
thing.
don't remember.
Last year I was driving one of the NASCARs, so it was a 2013 Chevy SS built by the Furniture
yeah.
Racing guys for the NASCAR circuit, and then we, within a matter of 3 weeks, took it from a NASCAR designed to turn only left and go fast in a circle to a Pikes Peak car. So it was far from perfect. It was nowhere near the level of expertise that was involved with this build, and obviously 5 years of development is nowhere comparable to the 6 weeks of development we had in that previous car. So it's going to be an exciting year for sure.
One of the biggest challenges at altitude is making your engine run right. I mean, everybody struggles with it. They want to overheat. You can't get the mixture right. The turbos overspeed. They spin too fast. All kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Intercoolers aren't efficient enough. On and on and on.
Like to your point with the overheating, it is a huge issue, especially with turbo cars and cars that make this much power, because a lot of people don't think about it this way, but you can measure horsepower in BTUs.
Yes.
Like the more power you make, the more heat you're
make.
making. And you got to get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
And it doesn't want to go away on the mountain.
Yeah,
it gets
there's
worse
not
and
enough
worse and worse.
air. Yeah.
So we have a 1 gallon tank that sprays meth on the radiators, front and rear.
So you're on meth.
Yeah.
Externally, though.
Yeah, we're not going to be doing like the weird things with our mouth and like grinding our teeth.
Good.
We're just going to
Because the alcohol evaporates so well. Right?
Yeah, the alcohol
and that cools.
more. Yeah, it's a little bit better at evaporating and cooling off. So it's basically windshield washer fluid is what we're running, because it's cheap and effective, and it does what we need to do. We could probably run distilled water also, but we're trying to get every little bit that we can out of it to try and keep it just as cool as we can.
Great, great.
We're going to have a ton of brake cooling on it. We don't have it on here yet because, like most races, we'll probably be working on the car like up until about 4 minutes before it goes and runs the race. So you always have something you want to do, or that you think you can make a little bit better, or that, or we'll look at something in the data and it's like, man, it would be so much better if we changed the turbine housings. And like we just changed the turbine housings and the gear ratios and the throttle body, and we changed a bunch of stuff just to try and make it a little better.
Mike, I might have used this quote in our last interview, but I once read that it's a work of art, and the artist is never done with a work of art. He just decides to quit working on it. At some
you just
point.
move on to a different work of art.
Yeah, I see that. Well, everything looks fantastic. It's incredible, you guys. Tommy, good luck.
Thank you, Randy.
I'll be rooting for you since you're not in my class.
Exactly, likewise.
Yeah, we're competing but not competing.
Yeah.
We can both technically win, right?
Well, my goal is to be within a minute of you. That's my goal, 1 minute. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
You guys, you're going to run great. Can't wait to see that Camaro tear them up.
Thanks.
Thanks, Randy.
Have a great one.